Hi, I'm Noah Gervais. I'm here to talk to you about the things that I'm going to be doing with my channel coming up, about your donation, and about what that donation really means in the grand scheme of things now that this channel is, by pretty much most metrics, successful. The last time I did a live Patreon update was around 2016, and I want to address briefly the reasons why it's been so long since I've had one. The main reason is that I want to talk from a position of strength, and every single month from 2016 to here, I've felt behind, like I'm letting people down, like I really haven't been in a position of strength to talk from. However, that's not actually the case. By all metrics really that there are, YouTube views, Patreon income, the things that people say to me on Patreon, they all suggest that things are actually going pretty well and that I'm doing okay. So despite my personal feelings on the matter, I've decided that the time's really come for me to address the audience generally, now that I'm no longer a pizza cook and I've been doing this thing full-time for at least 5 years now. So the thing that's made me feel like I haven't been in a position of strength has been mainly feedback that I've gotten about the professionalism of my videos. There's a lot of questions about whether the money I'm making justifies the low quality of the videos. And I just want to stress, before I get into that more, that my main goal has always been to do right by people. And if you feel like I haven't done right by you, I have always had and will continue to have a no questions asked unlimited refund policy. If you've donated money on Patreon, you can always ask to pull out everything you've ever put in. If you've donated $550 over 55 months, I will give that back to you if you ask me. So, the question of, is my work professional? It's a good question, and honestly, I don't know. I have no idea. I started doing this in isolation. I've continued to do it in isolation, and all I really have is the feedback that I get, which is very, very split between people who feel like I'm doing a very good job and are very fond of what I'm doing, and people who feel like the fact that I get $6,000 a month now to make these videos is utterly disgusting because of how inept they are. So it's difficult for me to split the difference between those two opinions, because if the people who enjoy what I'm doing and feel like I'm doing well are correct, then there's very little action that I should take. However, if the people who feel like I'm letting everyone down and basically grifting the people who do give me money, then there's sort of a call to action implied to that. Stop grifting, right? But the axis on which most people feel like I am grifting is audio quality. People feel very annoyed that my audio quality hasn't materially improved more in the time that I've been doing these videos. And the biggest obstacle to that is that I don't hear it. Whenever I release a video, it sounds fine to me. Now, because of how frequently I've been getting these comments, I've been putting a lot more effort into my sound quality. I do whole paragraph takes that last from about 2 minutes 30 seconds to maybe 4 minutes 30 seconds, where it's one block chunk in that, and then if I screw it up somewhere in there, I take the paragraph from the top and work my way down. Now, previously I was doing like 4 or 5 takes a paragraph, but I've upped that to like 10 to 15 takes, and then I select the best one. And if it comes to be that I'm sorry, I basically lost my place there. For me, the idea behind it is that these large paragraph takes are more conversational. Like the flow of it when I'm listening to it sounds to me like I'm just talking to somebody, and I like that about it. People tell me that it's unprofessional and inept, that I don't take out my breaths, that I don't take out like some of my stutters, and I've been moving more and more towards making sure that there's no like stutters, or that I don't like sort of straightforwardly bungle the dialogue as it's coming out of my mouth. Like, I've been putting a lot more effort into making sure that that does not happen. However, like, I like the whole paragraph takes, and I'm going to be continuing to do them. And I know that that's not some people's idea of what's professional, but that sort of brings us to the other question, which is, to whom am I actually accountable here? And I know that sounds like an asshole thing to say, but from my perspective, trying to take literally every single commenter in good faith, when a lot of these comments aren't being made in good faith in the first place, is extremely difficult, and it's been driving me crazy. So, like, the question here, who am I accountable to? You can also ask that a different way, which is, to whom do I have responsibility of professionalism here? And that's obviously the people who are donating on a month-to-month basis, the patrons. You, probably, if you're watching this video. It's you that I owe the effort, it's you that I owe the work. And the majority of people who tell me that I'm inept, incompetent, and that my creative output is basically worthless generally don't actually tend to donate, and generally don't actually tend to be fans of this channel. Like, a lot of the people that leave these comments don't seem to really understand what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, or why that sort of, like, do-it-yourself early YouTube aesthetic is still appealing to me. But I like it because it is more casual, it is more conversational. Like, there really isn't anything about me that makes me more qualified to talk about video games than you. It's just that, like, I have the time. I get paid full time to sit down and write it out and block it out and record it and put it in the video. So if you think that you can do better than I do, you probably can. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you think that my creative output is worthless, then you are certainly welcome to make your own. Meanwhile, the thing that I really have to do here is leave it to you, the patrons, to tell me when I've screwed up. And you have in the past on a couple of issues. But I just want to really emphasize that the only way that this social contract between you and I works with as many people as it's grown out to now is if you as an individual take sort of responsibility for how you feel about my channel and how you want to express that to me. You can ask for a refund, you can drop your donation, you can just tell me I did something or had an opinion that you didn't care for and that, like, it's put your donation into question. Like, all of these things are perfectly appropriate ways to reach out and sort of demand accountability from me. And for my end, I want to be very flexible in being accountable to my patrons. The thing that I can't do anymore, and the thing that's just been driving me crazy, is to just try to take seriously every comment I get about what a shitfuck of a human being I am. Like, I am who I am, I do what I do, I am putting in my best faith effort, and I think that that is all that I'm really able to do. And it's up to you, the individual patron, to determine if my monthly income warrants that or not. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So my on-paper income has grown to about $6,200 a month, which is huge. So much more than I ever thought that it would be. But for the people who are like, my God, he's taking home $6,000 a month, this is not actually true. In the US, self-employment taxes are significant. So I've just kind of gone through what it is for last year. And last year, I made slightly over $60,000 in the whole year, but I ended up paying over $24,000 of that in taxes. So that's not counting rent either. So if you're basically thinking that I'm Scrooge McDucking at this point in my career, you're slightly mistaken on that. Like, the amount that I'm getting per month allows me to be more comfortable than I ever have been before. But I don't think we're at the point yet where I'm just, like, smoking blunts made of $100 bills, you know? We're not there, and if people are talking about me like that's where I'm at, I guarantee you that I'm not. What I am doing, however, is taking the disposable part of that income and investing heavily into future travel content. So 2020 was meant to be a travel year for me when I was thinking about it, but of course the pandemic pandemic happened and a whole lot of other things happened, and that really doesn't work. And travel still doesn't work until I'm able to get a vaccine. So because of that, I've been sort of saving up for a grand multi-trip experience where I have 4 video projects that I get done over a 3-month period, one after another after another. And the bus is not going to be the focus of that. I have gone back to community college. I've joined the automotive program here in Bend to learn like how to fix up cars more formally and like actually get my knowledge in order, so that I can take something a little weirder. So now we come to the large bird portion of the update. I have gotten a 1978 Ford Thunderbird. And this is going to be the center focus of these 4 travel projects that I'm going to be doing coming up here. My real-life landscapes of Fallout. My real-life landscapes of Fallout video has done better as far as the analytics go than really any of my other travel content or anything that I ever expected as far as travel content would do. It's up nearly to 300,000 views. So that being the case, there's a huge demand for the real-life landscapes of Fallout East Coast, Fallout 3, 4, 76, possibly Tactics, which is very doable. But it asks the question, well, how am I going to get to the East Coast? Which has led me over the past couple of years to my travel obsession. The Lincoln Highway. So the Lincoln Highway was the first coast-to-coast U.S. route that was intended for cars. Its heyday was from about 1918 to 1930. So there's all sorts of nostalgia for Route 66, and that's warranted. But the Lincoln Highway is an entire generation before that. The numbered routes of which Route 66 was a part killed the named routes like the Lincoln Highway, just the same as the freeway ended up killing 66 in the end. So this is going back in history so far. So I've gotten several books. This one's sort of narrative history. This one is more explorative history from one end to the route to the other. This one is actually great. Brian Butko did some fantastic research in here. And then this one is just sort of brochure style almost. If you're curious about the Lincoln Highway, I don't actually recommend this one. But something that is particularly cool to me about this whole thing is that the original Lincoln Highway in 1918, the guidebooks were just a list of directions from New York to San Francisco that would be like, at the Potter's Field, take a right. If you encounter a fence, beep your horn. If you break down along this route, light a campfire and someone at the local ranch will ride out and help tow you. So because so much of the Lincoln Highway is now something else or named something else, I've had to do the same thing to reconstruct it. So I've begun to lay out from San Francisco to New York, step by step, turn by turn directions for every single intersection on the 4,000 mile route. So I'm up through about Wyoming with it. And I'll be able to finish this off definitely within the next year. I think I mentioned before, but it's this coming spring that I'm really intending to go hard and do all this stuff. That seems like a long way away. But just talking brass tacks, the road trip for the West Coast Real Life of Landscape cost me about $6,000 total, somewhere in there, which is like not a huge amount for travel content. There are people who spend a lot more money on this shit, a lot more money. But it's also a much larger scope. So it's going to cost about $13,000, I reckon, to get this run of videos done. Now, that's not a call for you to donate more money, because I can do that in the spring at the income level I'm at now. Even if it went back a bit, I could still probably swing it. Like, the plans that I'm making and the scale that I'm making them at are so that I don't have to come to you guys and ask you for more money. What I'm trying to do is take the money that you're already giving me and do something really amazing and really cool with it that sort of creatively pays it back in a meaningful way, which I think is the purpose of Patreon, right? So the other thing is that, as I've said, I've gone back to community college, so I'm going to do sort of the same thing I did with my 73 Mercury in the very, very first travelogue I did that technically took place nearly 7 years before I even started my channel. So I'm running the program. I'm running it nearly full time, actually, because it turns out that being locked up in the house and playing video games all the time is bad for me. It is actually really bad for me. I go crazy. I get it all twisted up. I don't think about things the right way. So I need something else going on in my life that's more practical, and school has been huge for that for me this quarter. Like, going back to school has been a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it's tax deductible, so that's cool. But the thing is by the time we get to the spring, this Thunderbird is going to be really, really fucking ready to go. The bus needs an engine rebuild. The bus is tired. The bus is old. The bus can't go over 65 miles an hour, even in the best of circumstances. But this fella will go 85 miles an hour up and down the mountain no matter what you ask it to do. Like, I don't know how much overlap there is between Ford fans and people who watch my channel, but this is a very peculiar Thunderbird. It's called the Sport Decor Group, which is why it has these contrasting colors, these peculiar hood straps, and these little louvered vents that aren't actually connected to anything mechanical. They're just an affectation. The whole thing is, to use a fashion term, 70s does the 30s. Like, to do a travelogue about the Lincoln Highway, ideally you want to use a car from the 20s and 30s for maximum nostalgia, but like, that is so prohibitively expensive, and then you get back into the problem where they just aren't mechanically comparable to modern cars. This has sort of a pan-era look and feel for an American road car. It has all of these little touches and affectations from 70 to 90 years ago. Very powerful 400 engine from 50 years ago. It's got just so much that just makes it practically and aesthetically the right choice, in my opinion. And it actually gets great compression and runs pretty well. So I paid $2,000 for this machine in the shape that it's in, and I'll be putting more money into it by the time it's gone. But I think that that's not an unreasonable investment and not an unreasonable thing for me to have done. I think that this is in keeping with the kind of thing that people like me to do, and the kind of reason that people are donating to this channel in the first place. Like, it's a fine machine, and it's only going to get better. And that's honestly my hope for the channel too, is that I want to make improvements to it all the time, but I am only one person. I can only make incremental improvements to myself and to my channel. And I want to do that because I want to operate in good faith. But I can't listen to every rando who comments on how my audio sucks. Like, my audio is good enough to satisfy me, and it's good enough for the people who are currently donating. Unless it's not, in which case maybe you should take back your donation a bit, or reduce it, or eliminate it. Because sounding fine is really my only goal. Like, I don't get the ways that people want me to sound better than that. So that's sort of my contract with you going forward, is that if you keep giving me money, I will endeavor as best I can to do interesting things with it, record those interesting things, and then post them for your enjoyment. Again, I think that is the Patreon contract. We're still aiming for one video game video a month. Travel videos will probably replace a video game video in months that I do travel videos. But in 3 months of being on the road, I should have 4 entirely separate travel projects as far as video goes. And again, this is spring of 2022 that we're all organizing this for. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to school. I'm fiddling with this Thunderbird. I'm getting a really, really massive epic road trip together, including East Coast landscapes of Fallout. I'm continuing to try to improve my videos, and I'm continuing to try to do right by everybody. So I'm sorry that it's been so long since I've talked to anybody about this sort of thing on YouTube like this. But I haven't been well. I've been depressed, I've been sad, I've been fearful, but it's time to start getting past that and get into the good stuff. So I think we're getting there. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.